Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Leslie Rogers. I am a psychologist and host of Mental Health Talk. The goal of Mental Health Talk is to promote ongoing dialogue around mental health and overall well-being. And guys, look who's here. This is my guest today, Corey Clark. Corey was a principal role performer on the Emmy-winning production called American Idol, guys, Season 2, leaving the production in 6th place. In that same year, Corey appeared on the cover of People magazine and a multitude of other magazines since then, such as New Music Weekly, US Weekly, and thousands of other mainstream publications all over the world. Wow. That is awesome. How are you?
I'm great. How are you doing?
I am good, and glad to have you on here. Thank you to you and your production team for agreeing to let you come on and talk about mental health because it is so needed, right?
Yes, thank you for having me. I certainly appreciate it.
Yeah, especially as a man, I always take my hat off and give kudos when you guys stand up and talk about mental health because it's like really tough sometimes to do that.
Not that it's tough, it's just that we're brought up to keep our emotions away from other people because it's a sign, allegedly, according to society, of weakness. But that's not the case. That's not accurate. That's why we're here talking today.
Right. But you guys normalize it for each other, right? It takes one to stand up and then others follow.
Yes, absolutely.
I tell people that all the time. Mm-hmm.
Not that it changes, society a great deal at the same, all at once, but, change is made by one footstep in front of the other.
Yeah.
So eventually it'll be normalized in society as a whole so that all the young male children coming up being raised won't be raised to feel like it's weak for them to display emotions and or talk about weaknesses as any human being naturally would have.
Yeah but I think it's going in the right way. It's not like, I think men are starting to step up a lot more with respect to mental health as it's been in the past.
I agree.
Yeah.
I mean, we had some great leaders to pull from several generations ago, so it's something that is up to us now, my generation, my age group, to discuss and keep that ball moving forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So Corey, you competed several times, right? You competed, and competing can be so challenging and emotionally overwhelming, especially when you progress through so many stages.
And you're asking like the
how do you prepare for that mentally after you go through, progress through so many stages, so close to winning? How do you mentally deal with being eliminated?
I mean, it's like any other contest. I grew up playing sports, football primarily, and all about competition. May the best man win, the best team win. So some you win, some you lose. You take that in stride and you start preparing for the next challenge, the next competition, I guess, and essentially just making yourself better. If you don't lose, you don't ever learn how to really win. So it's something that luckily prior to a lot of the major competitions I did, it was something that I learned at a young age. You lose a game with your team and you guys feel like maybe you shouldn't have lost because of some kind of bad call or a breakdown in communication with the team, and you guys mess up. Like, there's so many aspects that can lead to a person losing, quote unquote, that it just I'm thankful that I was able to get into competitive sports at an early age and learn the dynamics of being a good sport when you win, and also being a good sport when you lose as well. You go shake the other team's hand. You're not bitter that they beat you. You gotta be like, I have to do better. I gotta do better. So I don't really try to go around throwing out and projecting my lack of on anybody else. That's one of the ultimate signs, in my personal opinion, of weakness is just not being able to handle that you're not on top and not being able to be a good enough spirit wish somebody else congratulations if they happen to win. You know, it's a competition. It's a friendly competition. You know, we're not normally going after each other's lives. We're just competing on a professional level. So that made it easier for me transitioning into my music career when I would get a no, or in my modeling career when I would get a no. You just, okay, cool. You know, this wasn't an opportunity for me, and you go home and you regroup, and you go out the next day and you go after the next opportunity, because you know there's no telling which one is going to land in your favor. But you know, if you don't try because you lay down after you lost and you don't want to get back up, that's when it becomes a problem. You know.
Yeah. Absolutely. And let me tell you, I used to watch those shows and I get anxiety by just watching it. And I can't imagine that a lot of folks don't go in there. And I've seen people break down on the shows when they lose or when they're eliminated, and it's tough. So are there professionals on the shows that help people cope through disappointment and through eliminations?
I mean, yeah, yes and no. I mean, in one of the productions that I was on in particular, they had professionals on there. As a male, it was a male psychiatrist and a female psychiatrist. They had been implemented from the first season moving forward of this particular production, and luckily, I was given some advice by another professional that it gave me the knowledge that these professionals weren't necessarily here for our benefit or for my benefit as a performer and a competitor in this competition, and that these professionals were actually doing what they were actually engaging in was a violation of their I think it's called a Hippocratic oath or something when you're a doctor, where you're supposed to have patient a doctor
HIPAA.
patient.
Yeah, HIPAA. Yeah.
And,
did you guys come together as like a team? Like the contestants, do they often come together as a supportive team for each other, or is it just straight competition?
No, not at all. It was very chaotic. Your description of how chaotic it was spot on, because you know, the further and further you get into some of these competitions, obviously you feel a normal anxiety and angst to want to come out on top. That's the first natural feeling you have. But then you got people that are arbitrarily and what's the word? They're creating like false instances of anxiety inducing moments for the benefit and the sake of making good TV. And in between that, I was informed that these psychiatrists who are supposed to be helping us deal with all the stress that comes along with being on international stages that are being watched by millions of people, they're supposed to be helping you get through that, and instead they're making it seem like it's a legitimate session where you're talking to them, and then they go back to the producers of the production and they divulge that protected information, and these producers of these television shows, to get higher ratings, will leak that information to
because it sounds like you all weren't the client. That's why. Because you all weren't the client, the producers were the client.
Well, we didn't pay them, but it's the same lawyer.
So that's the reason why they probably went back and talked to the producer or whomever about it, because it's about who's the client, and you guys they were there to help you guys cope, but ultimately the show was the client. That's probably why.
Here's the thing, like a lawyer, you pay somebody, a lawyer. I got a new person, my right now situation going on where legal fees, and just because somebody was paying for it doesn't remove
I get it.
The lawyer-client protection nor the doctor-client protection. Like, who's paying don't matter. It's who you're treating, who you're giving a service to. So Dr. Leslie can be paying my attorney or my psychiatrist, but that psychiatrist or that lawyer is still obligated to me through a client protective relationship with them. And in this instance, these
Yeah, that's why
psychiatrists.
those contracts are important, because you guys have to read the contracts and see who the client is.
No,
Yeah.
I'm saying the
Yeah.
law recognizes whoever the doctor is dealing with as the client, not who's paying. The who's paying doesn't matter. You know, somebody else could be paying for me, but if I'm the one going in and getting the service, I'm the client.
Right.
The professional has to protect me, because I'm the one with the HIPAA laws in place for psychologists.
I know what you mean. Yeah. Listen, Corey, post American Idol, after you were eliminated and you went forward, how was that for you? I know you and I have talked before now, and you've talked about being blackballed in the industry. How was that for you mentally and emotionally? And what does that mean, being blackballed?
Blackball means essentially that you have been obfuscated from whatever industry you might be in, whether it be, if you're a chef, if you're a lawyer, if you're, a politician, whatever. If you upset somebody by not doing what they want you to do, or you don't allow yourself to be taken advantage of, whatever the case may be, blackballing means that they're now effectively telling the rest of the entities in your field of work that you are no longer employable. They can't work with you. If they work with you, then we're not going to work with you.
Mm-hmm. So, is that in the industry or everywhere?
I mean, I haven't really worked in too many other industries besides the entertainment industry. So I know for a fact it's very prominent in the entertainment industry, not just music, but entertainment as a whole. Yeah. But I would venture again, the term blackballing didn't come just from, entertainers getting put out of the industry. It comes from probably different fields of work as well, where, a stock person they don't want to, what they call them, a stockbroker. They don't want to violate the law by giving insider information, but their bosses and the people surrounding them at their company might be pressuring them to do so. And if they don't, they get fired, retaliated against, and then nobody else will hire them, because you're working for a big, powerful company. So that can take its toll on any human being, especially when you're on a stage, international stage, in front of millions of people. And now all of a sudden you've got all these complete strangers that are talking about your life, that are passing judgment upon you. They've never met you a day in their life. All they know about is what the media is telling them about you. And facts be damned. They don't need facts. It's like, oh, it's on PerezHilton.com, or it's on SunGlobe.com. So it's got to be true. And what we got to understand is that the people that are perpetrating that, they understand the reach and the impact and the effect that it has of using mass media to influence people to do things that they wouldn't normally do, or feel or think things that they normally wouldn't feel or think.
Right. How does that impact you emotionally? Oh my gosh, I can't imagine, the impact that would have on you, especially since you're in the limelight of things.
Look, I mean, here's the worst of this particular competition I was in. There are people who it impacted so tough that I would say did not receive the amount of blacklisting or adverse, slanderous, defamatory comments made about them on a worldwide scale. I mean, I was on one show in particular, one production 18 years ago. And just yesterday, they're still printing articles in mass media, or printing is a loose term, but they're still publishing articles about me 18 years later. And
so how does that impact your mental health?
Oh, a while ago, it was tough. At first, it didn't. At first, I was a cocky, young adult, 22. And for me, somebody talking against me or saying I couldn't do something was actually fuel for me. It was like, you saying I can't do this? I'm not good. Okay.
Yeah, that became a challenge.
And it became a challenge. That's the sport competitor in me. But then after years of it continuing, it's I'm not Superman, so it definitely took its toll. But there are some things that I experienced and had to make it through that. And once I got through that really rough patch a couple years afterwards, for me, it was all just about learning how to control my own emotions, my own future, not depending on other folks, and then also being confident, having to regain the confidence I had spent so many years building up to get to that point, only to have it like shuttered by people that did not have my benefit in mind was tough to deal with. But once I learned that, I kept waking up every day. You know, God still got me here. You know, I'm still able to walk, talk, do things that other people, some people unfortunately can't do. I got to start looking at some of the positive aspects of life, some of the benefits of it. But there's some of those folks that happened to where they actually took their life. They didn't experience all the nastiness I did, and some of them were not mentally tough enough to get through the dark times, and they literally committed suicide.
So Corey, do you feel comfortable talking about some of those experiences, like those emotional experiences that you went through during that time or after?
Yeah, I mean, so I come from a very loving family background. My parents are still married. They raised me and my 3 younger sisters with the best of their ability, giving us everything they could, loving us and treating us with respect and honor, really. You know, something that, number one, not every human being has. You know what I'm saying? So I want to say that my home life, having my father in my life and having my mother in my life, and knowing that they cared about me and that they wanted the best for me, that helped me as a base building block in my soul and in my spirit to get through some of these harder times. But I will say it didn't prevent some of the darkest times when I was getting in my own head and I was getting extremely paranoid. I didn't know who I could trust, why people were talking to me that I didn't know. Like, people would come up to me and start talking to me like we were friends, like they know me. And I'm sitting there thinking, like, man, where do I know this person from? I feel bad that I don't remember him. And then they're like, oh, I don't know you, it's from the show, but why you do this? Why you do that? And it's a million people, not literally a million, but thousands of people I've met throughout my time since then that all ask the same questions, and it's all based on what the media has said about me. You know what I'm saying? So in 2006, I had lost a child with my first wife, or my only wife to date. I lost a child with her. We had lost a child, and the media stuff was kicking up really tough. I was losing the deal that I had. I was getting blacklisted. I was getting falsely arrested by a personal family situation with a police officer that was in my wife's side of the family, just using his influence to negatively impact me, which then would get broadcast all over the world as well. And I just got tired of what I felt like with people controlling my life and not being able to trust people. And I did attempt to commit suicide, you know, and I hung myself from a top bunk, and I was gone. And the people that broke into the room where I was at came in and revitalized me. They shot my chest with something that I guess sparked my life force back up, apparently. And you know, after talking with some of my family members after surviving that incident in 2006, it was apparent that I was demonizing myself over what other people were saying about me that I already knew was not true and it was not accurate. But I was taking all that pain and internalizing it, and all of that trauma and internalizing it, and just didn't know how to deal with it properly. So luckily for me, I had a great family unit that once they learned about that, they were just like, man, don't ever let yourself get to that position again. So it's more of a testament to making sure that you got the right people in your life that actually love you, that actually care about you, that want to see you succeed, that want to see you on top regardless of what everybody else is saying, and reminding you about who you are. I think that a lot of people that might have some mental health issues in America, I would say specifically, because I've never really been to many other places, a lot of them don't have that. They don't have that backing. They don't have that support, that familial support. Maybe if it's not your family, it could be some very close friends, somebody that treats you like family, you know. But it's always good to have a support unit, is what I found, and people that actually want the best for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're absolutely right. Support systems do mean a lot, right? You know, you have your family as support systems, but Corey, when you get into that entertainment industry, guess what? Your fans become your support systems in a sense as well. And it sounds like you felt that you were being attacked by everyone.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me, I love those fans that were, altruistic and I can't necessarily say faithful, but supportive through those times, and they were very few and far between. But I guess it was not the fans that kept me going. It definitely was my family, and my strength ended up coming from my children and knowing that, you know, if even though I had lost a daughter with my ex-wife, like uh, my other children still need a dad.
Yeah.
They still, and I didn't have any other kids at the time, but at the time that I got all this and started figuring myself out, we did have two more children together, and I was like, my kids need a dad, and that I don't trust nobody else to raise my kids, so I got to find the strength. If I can't find the strength, how am I going to lead my children and teach my children, especially my two boys, and not to discount my daughter, because she needs a whole different kind of strength, I believe, living in this world. But to really get my boys ready to become men, like that's my job. So I have to be the one to do that. My dad did it for me, and I'd be remiss for not understanding that it's bigger than me. It was bigger than me when I didn't have no kids. It was what I didn't understand. I thought it was just me. Woe is me, But it's never been just me since I've been.
But when having kids, it comes with maturity, and there's a different perspective when having children. So absolutely, yeah. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, yeah.
Changed my heart, changed my soul. Not that I was a bad person, it just made me understand what's important in life. And then once I started figuring out what's important in life, the trappings of materialism and those things that men, but human beings, like to try to offer you to sell your soul essentially for a moment of fame or for some money, things that you can lose and get back. The only thing you can't get back is your life, your family, your time. That's it. If you have $1 million and you lose it, you get it back. If you got a nice car and you lose it, you can get it back.
Okay.
If you kill yourself or you damage yourself or you hurt somebody else out of anger or rage or being emotional, that's something that you can't ever get back. So people have to start readjusting their psyche to understand that it's people that are the most important thing, not materialism, and not even people like my dream of at the back. I don't dream of being famous no more. I'm cool on being famous. It wasn't what I thought it was, and I don't chase it no more. I still do. I still perform and I still do music because it's what I love doing. But it's not something that I do to become famous anymore. It's something that I do to be able to touch other people and have a good time doing what I'm doing.
Right. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that story. And it sounds like you've been through several losses, and a lot of things happen all at once. And when folks contemplate suicide, it's like there's no other option, right? But I think that it sounds like based on your experience, you found out there are other options, to living, right?
Yes.
Did you ever get engaged in therapy, Corey?
No. That had to do with my distrust of people after my experiences. That had to do with my my experiences of having people, lying on me and whatnot. My paranoia.
I understand. You just didn't trust anybody. When has that changed?
No, not at all. I have good, I can talk to my folks like my psychiatrist. I can talk to my fiance like my psychiatrist. I can be open and honest with the people in my life and know that they will basically back me up. They're not going to go trying to sell my story to.
Yeah. So you are engaged in, because you said you're a psychiatrist. So you're engaged, right?
Say it again.
You're engaged with mental health, right? Because you said you can talk to your psychiatrist.
No. I said I don't. I talk to my family and my fiance like they're my psychiatrist.
Okay. I see.
We work through the thing.
It's interesting because I'm sure a lot of celebrities feel the same way. That trust factor, especially when it's talking about being engaged with mental health providers. Especially in your experiences, you had a bad, not so good experiences when you were competing with mental health professionals. So then that kind of obstructs things, right? So absolutely, I can understand.
Extra eggs against them, certainly. Learning that they were.
But again, Corey, I have to tell you. Yeah, and I will just say this. I know that you had a bad experience with mental health, but again, I go back to that the experience you had. It was because the client was the network. The client wasn't you all, and that's what it sounds like. That doesn't happen in the real world. In the real world, HIPAA laws and confidentiality are, I would hope, are intact. Yeah. So, but I apologize that you had that experience, because that's disappointing to me. Yeah. Because it creates a. Let me tell you, if one psychologist, I used to tell my patients all the time, if one psychologist mess up, then that's a reflection on all of us. You know. Yeah. So in this example, you had a bad experience. So it's a reflection on all of us. So therefore, you're kind of resistant to get engaged with therapy.
I saw professional licensed psychiatrists in the state of California that were selling information to tabloids. So that makes everybody untrustworthy, but if you want to make the move in my life to remove
I totally understand.
For that to happen again.
Yeah. So Corey, was this your first time sharing that story, like openly, outside of your family?
I believe so.
Oh my gosh, you were so courageous and brave to come on here and talk about that. And I applaud you, because, again, it's about normalizing and validating experiences of others, especially other males that can't readily get up and talk about depression and suicidal thinking. And I applaud you. Because I'm sure there are a lot of celebrities out here, especially that's trying to break into the industry, music industry. Acting and etc. and competing and things of that sort, and are experiencing mental health and can't really talk about it, right? Again, you build this following, and then when something goes wrong, do you lose that following, right? Potentially.
I mean, it's. I don't know if I lost it, because there was never really a gap for me leaving one of these particular competitions and the negativity and the slander and the defamation starting. Like, it started while I was getting removed from the production, and it kind of snowballed and continued after that. But it wasn't snowballing because I'm just that interesting of an individual. It wasn't snowballing because I was pushing any type of narrative. It was snowballing because this major media outlet that has endless amounts of media exposure at their disposal. They were consistent, and still to this day, they're influencing other companies 18 years later to still put out mainstream media articles about me. It's kind of ridiculous now. Like, to me now it's laughable, but back then, not ever having experienced anything like that, it was very hard to come to terms with. And to understand what was happening to me, why it was happening to me, come to terms with the fact that I obviously didn't have control over it. So what do? I started fighting back. I started giving my own interviews with anybody that would listen and post it up for me. I had to start fighting against a multi-billion-dollar major media corporation that was at liberty, just completely dashing my life to pieces. And at times, it's still, even though I got a great support system, it felt like it kind of was still just me.
But Corey, here's the thing. You have the power and control to put out there your own personal truth, right? And not by fighting. You can by changing your life around. And I want to talk about that now, because I want to talk about what you're doing now, because you're doing some great things now. And that's how you fight back, by doing great things, right? Yeah, by not getting involved in anything, by not reading the tabloids anymore about you. I mean, because there's several celebrities out here that has tabloids write negative things about them, right? And I'm sure it's hurtful. I heard the celebrity talking about, she often wears a mask when she's on television or when she's, on production. But then when she gets to herself, she takes that mask off, and it's hurtful to read about these negative things about her, right? So with you, there's ways to, fight back by turning your life around, and you're doing that now. So why don't you tell us about the good things that you're doing in your life now? What's going on with your music now?
Yeah, I mean, you know, turning your life around. I'd like to touch on that. Just turning your life around for me just meant changing my narrative. So changing my narrative, I did that because I was able to do that because I started focusing back on what I love, which is music and
Mhm.
creating music and working with other professionals. I forgot the joy that I had in actually working with other talented people, you know, collaborating on writing songs and having music produced and releasing it. Uh, and just more so identifying in my personal circle, uh, you know, who's for me, and not meaning like you just do whatever for me if I'm being illegal, you know, but who's for me, like who's for the betterment of me becoming a better man, you know, like just in my soul and in my spirit. And I had to start weeding people out of my life that had been in my life for a very long time. So that's part of changing your narrative, changing your surroundings, changing the people that you hang out with on a consistent basis. And that doesn't mean just, you know, dumping loved ones or friends that you've been acquainted with for a long time. It just simply means reevaluating your time, how you spend it, who you give it to, what's important to do with your time, and then realizing what's important to do with your time, family, having fun, living life, those kinds of things,
Right.
pursuing your career. That
Mhm.
helps you change your narrative. On top of my bulldog desire just to keep getting my narrative out to the public because of how visible I've been over the last 2 decades. It's like, you know, I'm not gonna let these people decide who I am anymore.
Right.
And I need to
Well,
pave
remember,
that.
I just said you have the power and control, right? You have the power and control. What are you working on any music right now?
Always, yeah. I mean, I took a page out of Michael Jackson and Prince's book. I mean, they learned this at a very early time as well, and they at one point in their careers decided they were going to start controlling their narratives because
Yeah.
people at large were destroying their their uh, 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 their reputation. And once
Mhm.
I learned that I can take control of that, it empowered me a lot.
Right.
And so, you know, I got back into the studios. I got a distribution deal with SM1 Music Group and distributed through Sony Music in the Orchard 2 years ago. I've been releasing singles through that deal. I've been creating new projects with different entities that are now involved with me. Honeybee Productions, you dealt with her. That's my management firm, and she's really helped me see the better side of what it is I need to be doing. She's very supportive, very instrumental, and transparent, and she got a
Right.
lot of integrity. And she makes other people that deal with me stand on those terms. You know,
Mhm.
without her, a lot of this stuff probably wouldn't have had the turnaround would have been so great, and it would have been so fast without her input in my life. So it's like I said, it's very good to have that support system. But
Right.
in creating the music, you know, her and my sister, my younger sister Asia, they pushed me to become a voting member with the Recording Academy, which you would think I would know about, but my little sister and my manager had to teach me about that late in my career about how I could become integral part of the RI. Well, it's not RIAA, it's the Recording Academy. I'm sorry, the people that put on the Grammys. I want to create a time in the future where music is about good music again and not just like record sales
Mhm.
and who's hot right now and who's not. It's like, is this the best record that should be voted best record of the year? Is this record well put together? Does it have a good message? Is it well produced? You know,
Right.
not is this the number one artist on the Billboard charts right now who sold 10 million records? Like, you don't have to be talented to do that.
Mhm.
You have to have a lot of resources behind you to do that, which doesn't make you that doesn't make you the best at what you do. It just means that
Right.
you have a lot of money behind you. And again, money is material. So too many people in our society put emphasis on materialism and not understanding that when you die, you can't take any of that with you to the grave. All you can take with you to the grave is your soul and what it is, the legacy that you leave behind. That's it.
What advice would you give for potential contestants, people that are interested in competing, interested in getting in the industry? Briefly, what advice would you give to them?
Be yourself. First and foremost, always be yourself. don't change for nothing. Like, unless you're just a terrible person. If you're a terrible person, you want to change. You definitely want to change. But if you're already a good person and somebody's offering you something of materialism to change the type of person you are, don't engage in that. Keep your integrity, keep your soul intact. It might feel like this is the only opportunity you're ever going to have, but trust me, it's not going to be, especially if you're dedicated to what you're doing and you're driven to be successful. Don't sell yourself short. Don't do things to try to become famous, because I'm gonna tell you something. Being famous is not what it is all cracked up to be. It was definitely different than what I thought it was gonna be. And unlike some of the other people that you mentioned earlier, some of the other celebrities, people like currently Britney Spears is in the news about mental health. She's got all the money in the world, and she's still having this like battle with this conservatorship. So imagine being in a situation where you were majorly successful like her, which I'm not saying I was, but anybody else that you might be talking about, and then they didn't have the money, or like somebody like myself that's coming up through Idol, and then you get all
mental health doesn't discriminate.
No, it does not. You get all the opportunities basically to do something better with your life, but then these companies, not these people. I got to quit making it seem like there's individuals that make up companies, but it took the might and weight of this company to do what they did. So if you don't have the money to combat those things, then you're doing like I did. You're taking one interview at a time, and you're answering the same question thousands and thousands of times to different entities about the same thing. But ultimately, that's just my fighting spirit. Like, I just couldn't allow somebody else to.
Well, again, you have the control over what questions you're asked in interviews. Hey, listen, like for instance, for here, I set boundaries. I didn't want to know about American Idol. What I want to know is how you were impacted after, right? When you go on these interviews, you have the power and control, Corey, to decide what questions you want to ask, right? Again, you just said you want to make a new you. You want to change your life around. You want to get away from certain stuff. Then, okay, have the power and control over what people ask you. If there's anything that can demean your character even more, deny it. Say no. Right? Say no.
You're lucky enough to be in an interview. Most times, you don't have power and control over what somebody else says or does, because that's another person. The only thing you
you don't have power and control outside of what anybody else does, but what you do have power and control over is what you accept and the boundaries that you make for your life. You can set boundaries for your life. You can't control what other people say about you, but you can set boundaries for your life to change that narrative, such as what you said, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, you can. So you have over you have power and control, not over anybody else. You said how many years it's been? It's been what, 16 years?
18 years. I was on
18 years. Yeah. It's time for you to just move on and, like you said, change that narrative and stand back on your feet. And it sounds like you've done a good job with getting back on your feet without letting something hold you back. Thinking about ways that you can do that and be a positive role model for people that's trying to break into the entertainment industry, being a positive role model for them, right? And that's what I meant by mentoring, and giving some sound advice, right?
Yeah.
But it sounds like you've done a good job, and I am proud of you.
Thank you. It definitely wasn't for their lack of trying. That's for sure.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So we are going to end. Oh my gosh, I appreciate you coming onto the show.
Thank you.
Again, I'm so proud of you. Oh my gosh, and I have to applaud you for being honest and vulnerable, right, in this space, in this big old space that could be anxiety provoking and scary. You came on and you told your story, and I praise you for that. So thank you for that. Is there any last words you want to say? Any questions for you guys that's watching? Tanya, I see you're on here. Tracy Smith, I see you're on here. Any questions for Corey Clark before we end? Any questions? Any questions about breaking into the industry or anything like that you guys want to know? If not, we are going to end. Tanya says, thank you for sharing. Yes,
I'd like to say what's up to your cousin, my homeboy Wayne Lassane. Wayne, what's up, peoples?
Did he tell you he was my cousin?
Huh?
Did he tell you he was my cousin?
I think he did. As a matter of fact, I didn't recall until you asked me, but yeah, he sent me a message and was like, "You're getting ready to do a show in a little bit with my cousin." I was like, "Who?" He said Leslie Rogers. I was like, "Get out! Leslie Rogers ain't your cousin, fool. That's my old modeling agent right there, man. What you mean?" He's like, "Nah, she's a doctor."
I know, right?
Yeah. Thank you, Tracy.
This is Dr. Leslie Rogers, Mental Health Talk with guest Corey Clark. Thank you for coming on the show. It's been such an amazing and powerful story you shared. Hey, listen, keep your head up. And if you're trying to change that negative, remember, you have the power and control to do whatever you like, Corey. You just have to believe it. You have to believe it, right? And everybody's not against you, right? It may seem like it, but everybody is not against you, right? There are people out here that are supporting you and that still believe in you, right? You just have to believe in yourself. You have to believe in yourself, and that makes a world of difference. So Tracy says, hang in there, Corey, you are strong.
Thank you, Tracy. I appreciate that very much. Very much. I get it from my parents.